Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to my LEGO Mindstorms walkthroughs. Today we'll be talking about the Data Operations tab. Last time we looked at the sensors, and now we can actually use math to manipulate those values and everything to our liking. So the first value is the the first block is the variable block here. On the top right you see it's blank here, so the first thing you would have to do is make a new variable and give it a name. So I guess I can just name it test, and now I have stored this variable called test. Here you can choose if you want to read what values at that variable or if you want to write. Since this is our first variable, we will have to write it. Yeah, and you can write, you can save as text, numeric logic, and arrays if you would like. So say I want to store the number 5 for my program. It's a very important number. We use it a lot or something like that. Then later on in the project, I have different things written, and I can read this value or read this numeric because that's what we stored this one as, and it will show up as the test variable, and then you can use that number in your program. So, and if you have multiple variables, you can choose what it can, which one it's referring to. So if I name this test 2, when I go to read it, it will give me test and test 2 here. So if I want to get the number 0 here, or if I want to get the number 5 here. So that's basically how you use variables. Just if you have any number you would like to store and refer to later, you can do that there. Next, you have the constant, very much like the variable. However, this cannot be changed. So here, you choose one value up here. Notice how you can't change the number. It just change which one it's referring to. You just store one value. So if I want to store the number 5 here, it will store as a numeric constant, and this you can plug into different areas of your program if you would like. You can also change this to text, and then you can change text here. So text, I can store text, I can store logic and arrays if I would like to. Next we have arrays. We looked at a little bit of arrays in the modes earlier, but we don't really know what this is. So an array is basically how a computer stores information. It will think of the array in and index as basically the address of data. So the array in is kind of like the street, and then the index is which house on the street you're referring to. So you can have multiple arrays or multiple streets, and you can choose which street you want to refer to, and then which house in that street you want to look at. Since we're at read, we can't really write anything, but if we go into write and then numeric, or you can also write in logic, so true or false. So say I want to go to the 0th street at the 0th house because computers start counting at 0 while humans start counting as 1, but something to remember there. And you can store the value. So say I want to store the value 5 here. Then I can take this and then plug it into my whatever logic I want to do with this information. So to show this, I have created this program right over here. This will basically allow you to make an array, and then it will print out that array onto your display. So here I have written on the first street, or I guess the second because computers start counting at 0, and then on the first house, the number 5. And then I went over and then added a new house with the append block, which is another mode right here at append and numeric. I appended, which just means added a new house to my original street, and I added the value 2. So then I connected this to this array operations, which will read it. So this basically takes in the entire array. So now we have 2 houses, one at the 0th street and then one at the 0th house and then one at the first house. And now we can read this entire array as we want, and we can choose which house we want to refer to here. So if I want to look at the first house, I will type in 0, and that's where this is, or I can type in 1 here, and it will read this value, and then it will print it out onto your display just to test it. You can use this for multiple things if you want to store different numbers and then recall them later. It's pretty useful. Next, we have the logic operations here. And this will allow you to have different gates. So the first one is AND. So if A and B are true, then the resultant value will be true. And if A and B are both false, then it will give you false. If either of them are false, then it will give you false also. So if either of them, so say if A is false and B is true, then this will be false. And if A is true, A is true and B is false, then this will be false. Next, you have OR. So this basically means if either of them are true, then it will be true, and if both of them if both of them are false, then it will be false. So for XOR, it's very similar to the OR statement. However, here, if A and B are both true, then it will give you a false statement. In OR, if A and B are true, then it will give you a true. However, here, if A and B are true, it's false. And you also have NOT, which basically does the opposite of whatever is going on here. So if A is true, it will turn it to false. And if A is false, then it will turn it to true. Right there. All right. And then the next one you have is math. Here you can do any sort of mathematical operation you want. You can add, subtract, divide, multiply, absolute value, square root, exponent, and advanced. In advanced, you can do so many different things right here. You can negate and floor, round, absolute value. You can do log. You can do trigonometry with sine, cosine, tan. And you can also do antis to find angles and stuff like that. Also, you have square root, and you just type all that in right here. And here are your different mathematical. Here you can plug in your numbers. So if I had a quadratic equation, for example, I could completely solve a quadratic equation if I wanted to right into here. Pretty advanced here, and you can also have exponents, square roots, absolute value, and I already went through all of these. You basically have any sort of math that you will need if you want to change your values of your sensors or something like that. So you can do all that right here. Next, we have the round. This is very simple. It just rounds. You can choose what mode you want it to round the number. So if you choose the nearest, then it will choose the nearest whole number. And you could round up, so no matter what the number is, if it's like 1.01, it will go all the way up to 2. And you can also round down, or you can also tourniquet, which basically just cuts it off at whatever number of decimal points you want. So in this case, if I tourniqueted it with 1 decimal, then we'll just do 4.7. It won't worry about anything after that. Next, we have compare. So just like the sensors that we looked at last time, you can compare different values. So you can choose all of these different comparison types, and it will compare these two values to each other. And it will give you a true or false statement, whether or not it is true or false. Here, so when we looked at the sensors, we could compare within the sensor itself. However, if you want to compare outside of sensors, so if I want to compare color sensor and the ultrasonic sensor at the same time, you can do that here. Or if you want to compare two color sensors, and if you want to see if they're equal or not, and see where you are on the table, you can do that here too. There's multiple different uses of this, and it's very useful. Next, we have range. So this, you can basically plug in any number you want here, and it will give you a true or false statement whether or not it is within these bounds. So say I want to make sure my color sensor is seeing a reflected light intensity of between 25 and 75. I could plug that number right into here, and if this is false, I know there's a problem, or it could also be true, and then I know it's all right. You also have the outside statement, so if I want to make sure it's not within these, then I can do that also, which is very useful. Next, we have the text. This basically allows you to merge different texts together. So say on my screen I want to display more than just one thing, because on the display block you can only plug in one thing at a time and not multiple. So say I want to print the color sensor value and the ultrasonic value at the exact same time. Unfortunately, I cannot do that. It will only fit one in at a time. So this is where this text merge block comes in. I could pull this one into here and this one into here, and then plug this guy over here, and it will merge the two values into one text and then print that out onto your display. You can have up to 3 of these. So if I wanted to add motor rotation, I could also plug that guy into here too. So pretty useful if you want to debug and troubleshoot. Very good. And then for the last block, you also have the random. Here you can choose between numeric and logical randomness and your lower bounds. So in this case right here, it will choose a number between 1 and 10 and give you a random number, random output here. Or you can also have logic, and here's your probability of true. So right now it's 50-50, and it will give you a true or false statement there. All right, I think that's it for the data operations here. Next time we will be looking at the advanced. This is where you can do a bunch of different things right here. And yeah, so I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section below, and I will be sure to get to them as soon as possible. Thank you.